Okay. Okay, well, hello everybody, I'm Don. Tonight I'm hoping to share my respect and fascination with the Lifesaving Service of the United States, and particularly the Cape Elizabeth one. And I thought I'd tell the story the way I learned about it. Mostly from Wayne, but that's part of the story. But, so I'm going to start with just the house, the life of that building that was built down at the bottom of Two Lakes Road, and to get into the background of the whole life-saving history, and then how the Cape Elizabeth House performed during its life-saving time. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And a huge shout out to Wayne, because he's really the historian here of all this. It was fascinating. So let's get going here. So in 1881, the U.S. Treasury approved the building of a life-saving station at Dyer Cove. At the time, life-saving stations were kind of like barns with just equipment in them. And they were placed all around the coast because nobody lived on the coast back then. Everybody lived in towns. So people would have a shipwreck and they'd find out if they made it to shore, there wasn't anybody there to help them. So, so the life-saving stations originally were placed in those particular places. But then as the population grew, they needed to build more life-saving stations, and they were getting their neighborhoods, and nobody wanted to see a barn that looked like that in their neighborhood. So, so the U.S. government hired this guy, Albert B. Bibbs, and asked him to design houses that were more house-looking, but they were still a life-saving station. And so he came up with a couple of different iterations, Bibb 1, 2, and 3, built these houses around the country, because there were life-saving stations everywhere, eventually. And then from there, he took the best pieces of all those, and he came up with a design for my house. And it was pretty cool. So it was a single, one-of-a-kind, single-style station, painted light green with a red roof, 2.5-story tower, and the tower was put on the side rather than the middle. And as you see, this one didn't even have a tower, this barn. So, and then that became like the stage, pretty much the foundation for all the life-saving stations after 1885, which was pretty cool. So they wound up, you can see that. They wound up with the first floor where there's a big room, which was the barn, and it had they would store boats in there, and they stored apparatus in there. There was a small kitchen and a mess room there. And then upstairs, the crew, just like a firehouse, the crew lived upstairs, and the keeper had his own room. And then there was this watchtower. And it looked a lot nicer than that barn, I think, right? Really nice. So, it still does. So they built it in 1887. Those drawings were 1885. And here's where it was placed, right down Dyer Cove there. Wasn't a whole bunch of trees around at the time. And the house looked really cool back then. So you can see this the equipment door here in the middle. Oh, you're not seeing anything on my mouth, sorry. So the equipment door here, and then the guys lived upstairs. They had a stove upstairs and things. And then this was a ramp that the boats would go into the ocean from. They would launch them and bring them back into the inside, along with a lot of other equipment. So the house was. Remember, we're just talking about the house right now. So the house was part of the life-saving service from 1887 to 1915. And it protected the Casco Bay and Cape Elizabeth. And I'm going to get into that stuff much later, about what it really did. But I'm just talking about the house. So in 1915, the Coast Guard, the life-saving service, got folded into something called the Coast Guard, which we'll get into later too. And then from there, the house was really just a boathouse down there. It was like storage and for boats, because Dyer Cove was a really cool place to keep boats. And they had motorboats and things back at that point. And one of the things I learned from Wayne was it's one of the first parts of Cape Elizabeth that had telephone and electric, because they had to get the services down there for any kind of rescues or bringing somebody out of the water and bringing them back up to wherever the hospital was at the time. I thought it was Maine Med. I don't know where they went. So that was really cool for the neighborhood. After that, I think they left us alone because we don't even have sewers down there still. But then in the late 20s, Edward Hopper hung out down there, and he was painting all around Maine and Mohegan Island a lot, and then Cape Elizabeth. And he calls these, this was Lighthouse Village, and then the houses where like Wayne lives, and his son, I think, right? The guys, they called that the Two Lights Village. That's what he called them. I'm not sure if that was a real name for them or not. And then, of course, there's the foghorn. And then he did these really cool drawings. He did 3 paintings of my house back down there. That one there, and then this one here. My partner Christine, way back there, she and I went up to Bowdoin College on a road show and saw this. It was like fantastic. The whole room was just filled with it. I almost got in trouble with a security guard. I think I did. He said, "You can't take a picture of that." But I own that house. So then World War II came, and the house became part of the Coastal Defense Network. And there's going to be a display of many different things at the Cape Elizabeth Historic Society building in the front, which is the Fort Williams part. They're working on this coastal defense system display soon. But anyway, so this house was taken over by the military, and they had this giant light in the big bay door area, and they would scan for boats and submarines and things at night. And Wayne shared this story where, as a kid, you grab the filaments of the old carbons that were charged overnight, and they would go around drawing the houses, drawing the roads and everything with it, because it was just something to play with. So then, after the war, the station kind of wasn't used for anything. It kind of ran down, desolate, and eventually got sold off to the U.S. General Services Administration by them to the Marines, who moved it to where it is right now, 142, just up the hill a little bit. And you can see my foundation down there still. It still remains. So it's down in the parking lot down there, right by the fog light. The foundation of the house is still down there. That's where my front door was, and the front porch, and then that was the base foundation there.
What happened to the tower in this picture?
Sad, isn't it? I don't know. It wasn't actually in the prior picture either. Well, it wasn't. I'm not sure when the tower disappeared, but I'm guessing. Maybe someone can help with that. But I'm guessing it became a nuisance because kids were playing it too much, and it was a safety hazard, so they probably tore it down. So, but it wasn't there later on in the times either. It was. This was at that back then. The tower was already gone here in the 40s. So I'm not sure when it disappeared. But you're right, I got a house with no tower on it. So in 2005, I wound up buying this house. It kind of called to me, and it was kind of weird. And I won't get into that, but there were a couple of families before me, as best I can tell from deed searches, that owned it after the 52 move. And after selling it for the first year, making a lot of repairs, I began learning a lot more about the house, because I didn't know anything. The realtor didn't know. She just knew it got moved. She didn't know this whole history of it. And apparently, there's this group called the United States Lifesaving Service Heritage Association that manages and watches for all the lifesaving stations. And it disappeared. They didn't even know where it was. So they said it was torn down, which is a shame. So, but anyway. So we hired an architect to help us figure out where to put a kitchen, because they had this small little galley, 10 by 5 foot thing that was a kitchen, and this architect just went crazy with my house and decided, "Don, you gotta put a tower on it. You gotta like do all this stuff to it, you know." And so suddenly my renovation turned into a preservation thing, which was a fun trip. So during the renovations, I just got into that. But I was bummed to hear it got lost. It was odd. I had a crawl space between the first floor and the second floor somehow. And not knowing what the house was initially, I thought, this was a little door between the second floor is up here, and this is the ceiling for the first floor. I had read that they smuggled things back and forth back in the old days, and I thought maybe it was a place they were hiding stuff. But I don't know why they did it. But the bones of the house were beautiful. They're really great wood, really solid wood. It was 2x10s, real 2x10s, all around the walls and the ceiling and everything. They built this thing that lasted. It really has. So anyway, So we spent a lot of time and money, and we wound up restoring it to the Douglas fir ceilings. We got, this is the entrance area. We got it down to the original floor, so we had to peel all kinds of stuff off. It was embellished linoleum, this black animal paste, rugs and stuff, and so there's all these marks and everything in there. There's one spot, I keep on telling Wayne stories if that's okay. He was telling me, when he was a kid, he remember seeing a truck go flying out the door on fire one day from when it was much old, it was almost before it moved. And I'm pretty sure that was a spot, I can see what the spot was, where that was on the floor, because it's a big black spot on the floor, which was pretty cool. And, but then, to your question, where did I put that? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so I didn't have a tower yet. So a friend of mine mocked up a model for me, and said, okay. And so I worked with the building inspector, the code people, and I was able to bring these prints from 1885 and say, I'm rebuilding that exact tower. And he said, well, is it going to be functional or is it decorative? I said, it's definitely decorative. So he said, do it. So anyway, so we wound up rebuilding the tower. So this is what it looks like. This is coming down the stairs, it's going up. It's exactly how it was built back in the old days. And interestingly, I see the opposite view now. It used to look north and now it looks south, but it's still pretty cool. And one of the things about building a tower, apparently everybody notices that. So suddenly the Cape Curry has like a 3-part article in the Lifesaving Station coming out. I got these other newspaper things happening. And then I find out every guy wants to put a tower in their house, but they're not usually allowed to. Christine didn't have a problem with it, so I did it. Another little fun thing is when we were doing this side, this is where the big bay doors were, and we found the original framing for that, so we rebuilt that. There's bedrooms behind her now, but and then really cool is this is the original wood, and the letters were reversed and embossed with all the chemicals they used on it. So we were actually able to paint right over the letters that were there before. So the signs were always facing the water, so that if you're driving by the boat, you could see what it was. They weren't like for the street. So okay, so and then because of all that press I got, we wound up getting the Greater Portland Landmark Group decided to give us a plaque. So it's kind of fun. So we're coming full time around back to the house being more like a life-saving station. And so let's get into life-saving history now. So shipwrecks are a bunch of different things. Classic shipwrecks are like smashing against a rock and all that, but it could be them bumping into things. It could be a big explosion. It could be just starting to take on water and sinking. And it was estimated about 3 million shipwrecks around the world already. And Cape Elizabeth has 90 documented ones when I did this originally a couple years ago. So where did this come from, the life-saving service? So right after, in the second half of the 18th century, our country was really, everything was all about water, really. It was fishermen, whalers, shippers, and a lot of farmers, too. And most predominant travel was by water, because there weren't like 95 or anything then. You had the Old Post Road was a multi-day thing to get from here to there. So it was very convenient to use water. So there's a lot of boats out there. One stat said that they were monitoring like 257 ships between just New York and Boston alone. That's a lot of business. And so this guy from England, who happened to still be here after this war that happened before 1786, he challenged the guys who were left over from Bunker Hill, including Paul Revere, to, you guys should do something about these people, these ships. People are drowning and they're hitting things. Nobody even cares if they're just letting it happen, What are you guys going to do? And so, following an example from Britain, the humane houses were created, and this is the 1780s into the 1800s. Where they just built a little house where all our beautiful houses are now, but there was nobody there back then. And it had a fireplace, some blankets, some clothing, and then they were able to. I don't know if there was any directions what to do after that, but they were able to save themselves. And so they just fell off the ship. wind up swimming to shore somehow, and then this is the place they can stay. So they had no navigation aids really. They had compasses, dead reckoning. Probably the most important thing was people did it before, so they knew where they're going again. And shipwrecks were just overwhelming the eastern shores by late in the 19th century. And then the one that really got people wound up was Long Beach Island. Does anybody know that in New Jersey? It's a pretty popular place people go, and they on April 16th, 1854, there's this ship from France full of people that wound up crashing 100 yards offshore. And everybody's hanging out on the beach doing those cool pictures you see with the fancy outfits on and umbrellas. And they're seeing people dying and washing on shore. And it just freaked everybody out. So this public outcry just got so bad that like people like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Louisa May Alcott were starting to write about this and think, we got to do something about this. We just can't let people die like this. So I'm going to take a drink of water for a second. So after all this noise happened, the government started worrying about, apparently back then, they didn't actually, the federal government didn't get in everybody's business, and they, they expected the states and municipalities to really run things. And so they were trying to figure out how do they actually put something in place that's across states like that. And finally, after a lot more people died, and particularly cargo, which started becoming revenue and money for things, they wound up creating the Lifesaving Service. So they allocated a whole $200,000 in 1871, and that was from the Treasury. So, which is interesting because this was cargo really. So the Treasury decided to start the Lifesaving Service, and they elected this gentleman, Sumner Increase Kimball, to be the general superintendent. He was from Sanford, Maine. He was a college graduate, lawyer, worked in President Lincoln's administration, and he created districts throughout the East Coast, the West Coast, and Great Lakes. Just for fun, who thinks most of the life-saving stations are around the East Coast? How about the West Coast? He knows the answer. Great Lakes had the most of them, yeah. So they had more and more shipwrecks there than anywhere else. So anyway, so he created these 13 districts, and he said, I'm only going to take this position if I have full control, full structure, policy, spending. I'm going to decide how we're going to do it. Just give me money, and they agreed. So he wound up. So this is what happened. The Lifesaving Stations got created, and so the Lifesaving Service started. Each station had a keeper, 6 to 9 surfmen, $5,000 worth of equipment, which were 2 different types of boats depending upon their situation. A surf boat or a life-saving boat. The surf boats were smaller and they could move those around. The 34 to 36-foot life-saving boats were self-righting. They had air pockets in them, so they would actually not sink. A Lyle gun, which we'll get into, breeches buoy, which we'll get into, and the beach cart that has all this stuff in it that guys have to carry usually, we used to pull it, not with horses. And then the important thing, stove cots, blankets, and utensils, required utensils. They would patrol the shores during the day and thick weather at night, and then somebody was always manning the tower during the day. The Northeast districts, they claimed, they covered pretty much every mile of exposed coast, like not Portland, but the coast in front of it. Every mile, every few hours, there's somebody patrolling all the time looking for stuff. That's amazing, isn't it? On Northeast. That's fascinating to me. So this breeches buoy thing is really cool. So we're going to take a little video break. I'm not sure if it's going to show up over here.
In 1878, the United States Lifesaving Service was officially formed. and Sumner I. Kimball was appointed its first and only superintendent.
Yes, we're not.
Its purpose, to aid in the rescue of those in peril at sea. With its formation, 280 stations were built along the
That's not going to the right place. This Zoom thing keeps stealing my stuff.
I'm sorry. It is showing up on the Zoom thing.
Of course it is.
Here, so I wonder if you want to,
Hit that red button right now.
yeah, maybe,
you. I appreciate
let's
that.
stop. Yeah, I think just go ahead with what
Thank
you're
you.
doing.
And practice with that. Okay, so. Okay, so I can put this back now. Oh man, could you step up and do some more talking again?
Some more water.
I've got my bottle here, but thank you. Appreciate that. That's so.
Maybe it's a matter of just choosing a different.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I don't have it. I was closing everything.
Oh,
That's it.
we'll get it.
Here it is.
There it is.
All right.
East and west coasts, the Gulf, and the Great Lakes. Although life-saving stations and surfmen existed prior to its formation, the stations depended on the local community for upkeep, and the unsung heroes were typically unpaid volunteers. Kimball believed that only through training and repetition could surfmen sharpen their life-saving skills. The beach apparatus or buoy breeches drill was one of those skills. Although it has not been done for actual rescue for many years due to advancements in technology and new, more efficient ways of saving lives, the drill has been resurrected here and brought the Chickamacomico Life-Saving Station back to life. The drill is performed once a week during the summer, giving visitors to the Cape a look into the life of a surfman over a century ago.
I'm real proud to say we're the only place on the planet where this drill is done by the United States Coast Guard, so that's real special.
Station Otter Inlet! Station Oregon Inlet! Open and secure! Open doors!
In its day, the beach apparatus was regarded as one of the most important pieces of equipment the service used. It was designed to rescue those shipwrecked within 600 yards from shore whenever rough seas precluded the launching of a boat.
The wreck pole represents the mast of the ship that's been here in Hatteras, Whalemock Shoals, especially Diamond Shoals, the graveyard of the Atlantic. The wreck pole and the two gentlemen you see simulate the mast of a shipwreck and two victims of a shipwreck. They usually carry this thing, it's called the faking box, and it has the small shot line in it. They usually carry two of them, a couple different shots, and plenty of gunpowder. The actual gunpowder, the black powder, we use here for the drill, just under 1 ounce, about 7/8 of an ounce. The gun itself, when they were using it all the time, was rated for 6 to 8 ounces. So they were firing from the beach, 1,000 yards, 1,500 yards, close to 3/4 of a mile. So they were pretty accurate when they had to do it. 3, 2, 1. And once this line gets out, basically it's just a block with one continuous line around through it. And that'll act as basically our machine of the whole rescue. We can pull one side of the line and send gear out and bring victims and other gear back. And one of the surfmen will be acting as the victim, and he'll get in the breeches buoy, which is all the breeches buoy is a life ring with a pair of trousers sewn in it. So that way the victim can actually sit down. We'll bring the victim one at a time to the beach. So in the event that it's a large crew, a tanker or a commercial ship, they may have to do this 30, 40 times, back and forth, back and forth. Thinking about what those guys did with buoy is great because it's a kind of a forgotten part of our history, Coast Guard. We're often the forgotten service, so to speak. That's part of our history that
You have to remember that
there's no
for later
lifesaving
on,
service
like
was so
they just said.
dedicated and sacrificed so much. Many of the buildings are gone now. A lot of the memories are gone. It's an honor for us to do it, to keep their legacy and what they did alive today.
So the breeches buoy is pretty interesting. So they had really two ways of saving people. One was the breeches buoy, which you're on land and you're doing all this stuff, trying to help people with shipwreck. And then there was the boats. So the ocean's not very friendly when you're having a shipwreck usually. So they really wanted to do this one first because it was a little, it was if they can guarantee that they could save people, it was the most important part. So just to explain how this worked really, so they would, there was this little cannon, a loud gun, and everybody had the same cannon. And this thing here was the thing they would send out on it. And they would tie a rope onto this, and this would be put in the shaft, and they'd shoot this at the boat. It's a 20-pound weight that comes at you. It's going pretty fast. And then it has a small line on it, and if they did it right, and the line's in the rigging someplace, they would pull on the line enough that you would say, oh, there's somebody, they got it. So they signal to start pulling the line. Of course, they're going to be pulling that thing really fast because they're on a shipwreck and they're worried about it. And so they come out and they wind up with this big thing tied onto a hawser, one of these ropes like this. And this is called tally board number 1. And it tells them you have to, says, I'll just read it to you. It says, make the tail of this block fast to the lower mast, well up. If masts are gone, then to the best place you can find. Cast off the shot line. See that the rope in the block runs free, and show the signal to the shore. And on the very top it says, l'autre la côte, which is French, because the other side's written in French, because they didn't know if it was immigrants or local. And from there, once they did that, that was number 1, was the second up there. And then the guys on shore now they have a pulley out there. They can start pulling stuff out there. So we pull out this rope here, which is called a hawser. And this is really that did all the business. And this would be tied to the second tally board, which I don't have. Tells them to tie it to the mast above where they just tied this. And then this block would run back and forth on the hawser, and they would hang the breeches buoy off of here. And they would go back and forth. And the colors are so they knew which direction things were going, because the water moves things around, and the ocean's going up and down. I was going to stop just Scott to help me with something, but you're too far away. So can you just imagine, you're on a shipwreck, and somebody sends this to you. Their old pants stuck inside of a buoy. And that's how you're going to get home. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So, but they saved so many people like this. Sorry about the noise here. I shuffle too much apparently. So, the daily life of a surfman. On Mondays they would do the breeches buoy drill that you just saw. So every station had a fake flagpole, like a mast with this crow's nest in it. The one in Two Lights was down by the foghorn there. There's some remnants of, you can see some things in the rocks that look like they're probably part of it. On Tuesdays, the boat drill, so they would take the boats out and have to spend an hour rowing at least. And sometimes when it was warm, which that wasn't a pleasure for every lifesaving station, they would try doing capsize drills. And on Wednesdays, they would practice the surf, the signal practices. So they would use the flags, they would use numerical flags, and wigwags, which is a wig, you wag it 3 times here, 1 time over here kind of thing. And they also have different rockets and colored flares that they would use. On Thursday it was the beach apparatus again. And on Fridays they would practice the restoring the apparently drowned thing, which was their version of life-saving at the time. I mean, of resuscitate any kind of stuff. I have to get out of this for a second. I'm probably running too late anyway. Okay, on Saturdays, so with maintenance, on Sundays they had the day off, but they had to be kind of within earshot just in case something happened. Now, this is one of the foundational pieces of general Southerners' rules. That these guys got drilled every day. They knew this stuff inside and out. It was really cool. So for each rescue mission, no matter how bad the ocean, they would first test the surf to see if they can actually get to the breeches buoy out there. If not, then they had to go out. And that was their motto, they had to go out. Nothing about coming home, they just had to go out. And they would get court-martialed or whatever, if what they meant. And of course they had no health benefits, no long-term care, no retirement. That's a bummer. If they got hurt during a rescue, they got another guy. And they had 9 guys on the station. Number 1 was the oldest term, and they make that guy, the new guy, number 9. So very exciting too is wives and families were just as dedicated as the surfmen themselves were. They shared the same courage and independence. They would build big fires where the rescue was going to happen, and that's going to be way ahead of that cart, because you saw those guys pulling the cart. They're not going to get there really fast. So they were kind of setting the stage for where the rescue is going to be. They helped the guys get the cart there because they might be getting tired. This boat here, they had to go to Trout's Neck from the bottom of 2 Lakes Road. And there wasn't any Route 1 there. So I don't know how they did it. They would nurse people they rescued, and they would go find lost surfmen too. Because the other people had a job to do, so they would go find their husband or somebody that was out there. So it was pretty crazy stuff, isn't it? They're in a boat. These people want to get off the boat. There's so many times people started jumping into the boat and then had to get out of the way because they were going to capsize and then everybody drowned. And or else, that's the breeches buoy rescue, and they didn't get off there really fast either. So pretty wild. So anyway, so the Lifesaving Service was really successful, and so Southerner had put some good rules in place, was really training the crew, but he was a smart politician too. So he hired this guy, William D. O'Connor, to write all his annual reports, and he was able to capture passion and really humanity in his write-ups. And these reports became so popular, they had to print them, and people all around were interested in reading them because they were just, and so he was making he made this so important, the Lifesaving Service, which it was. I mean, they were saving people's lives. And so people like, we've all seen this picture. Well, he got inspired by all the noise going on. And there's this book. This book is one of the things, I don't know where, maybe you won't show it to me, but I forget. But early on when I was renovating the house, it's called The Lifesaver. And it's a fictional but real story about a boy and his dog that got shipwrecked. And the author of this would go to town, to places, and spend a whole year in the life of those jobs. And he would write this story about it. So it made it like a really fun story to learn about the service, and they were all the real things. And it just happened to be he came to Cape Elizabeth, and so there's pictures of my house inside here. This is a 1899 book. It's hand cut, but there are pictures in it. And so there are pictures inside, like the cook in here. It's really fascinating. They're reading about this. So that kind of thing happened. Milton Bradley made a game for the Lifesavers. So, I mean, everybody's talking about this stuff. It was pretty good. And so he had no trouble getting money for his people. And postcards, every station had postcards that were, many times in the 1800s they had to go to Europe to get colored lights, and so there were postcards. These are all the Cape Elizabeth Maine stations, the station itself and its place. And these are family members of whoever has been here for a really long time. these are your families in these pictures. That's pretty cool. And more. But he was, so when the service was done, they saved over 186,000 people in the 37 years of service. That's amazing. That's a huge number. And unfortunately, it was really successful, so the Treasury Department decided we're going to fold it into the cutter service. Those are the revenue chasers on the boats. And they created the Coast Guard. So that was the end of the Lifesaving service. So they do say, they still follow the discipline and the drive of what Sumner had put in place. We have a couple of friends who are Coast Guard guys. They actually have a lot of fun too, apparently. But anyway, so so let's get to the Cape Elizabeth Lifesaving Station. That's what we started with. So in 1604, that's Maine's first recorded shipwreck. Samuel D. Champlain was doing some multi-desert isle work and wound up scraping the undersides of his boat, and it was starting to take water, so he had to pull ashore. So that was the very first recorded shipwreck we had. Before the Lifesaving Station was built, there were 64 recorded shipwrecks, and there's a couple here I'm going to talk about. This white one is a new one that, not on my list, that Ellen just shared with me, that some young high school kid,
Peter Benoit.
Peter Benoit, he was scuba diving around below Fort Line Headlight, and he found some cannonballs and then more of a shipwreck, and he found out that it was this three friends ship from England that crashed there. So that's probably a real first shipwreck that happened. That was like an immigrant boat. So here's two shipwrecks that are kind of interesting. The first one is the Annie C. McGuire. That was the one that you'll see pictures that where it crashed right next to the Portland Headlight. And one of the things I was talking about is I haven't talked about lighthouses at all. I've been talking about revenue cutters and life-saving. Well, the lighthouses were managed by a different group. They weren't underneath the Treasury. And their job was to keep the lights going, foghorns going, and they weren't allowed to save anybody. That was the rule. So Joshua Freeman Strout is the only keeper that I've read that actually saved somebody. So he went and put a ladder down between the rocks there, and they got off the boat. So that was one rescue there. The more famous one down where I live on Two Lights is Charles, and you guys all know that story, right? Yeah. So that boat hit Watts Ledge in bad weather, and Lydia was too anxious to keep her wedding dress, so she tied herself in her trousseau to a mast, and unfortunately didn't make it. Wound up on the shores of Cape Crescent Beach there. But this is the one that caused us to get a life-saving station. Everybody's seen this in the Portland, South Portland post office. And yeah, the Bohemian steamer crashed right off of Broad Cove. And this is like the Long Beach Island story where people saw, it was really in your face. And they, Christine laughed when she read 19 people in the cabin class, 200 in steerage, and then 89 crew. And there was 42 people that could have been worse. And so this was a local outcry from the people in our area that said that we need to get a life-saving station here. So in 1881, the government purchased a small lot of land in Dyer Cove, a 40 by 60 feet space. They're being very conservative. And that didn't really work out. So in 1884, they bought up all the land that was down there, right up to the fog light. And construction started in 86, and the house opened in 87. And Keeper Trundy was the first one living there for a while, getting things ready to go. So this is the station here, and this is the, so this is the life-saving station here. Dyer Cove, and that's the East Lake. And this is pointing to where north is going. And so if you think about where Portland is, Portland's kind of like over there, right? So, and there's like some topography, there's some hill there. So the tower here wasn't really doing that much good for those people. So they wanted to kind of for the second look out, a watch house up there on the hill there, so they could see not just across the ocean, but also see the Portland Harbor, because that was its whole purpose of being there. And so in the end, we wound up with 12 life-saving stations on the Maine coast of the 297 that were built, 279 that were built. And so from my house now, I can see the Fletcher Neck really well. I don't think they could see that back when it was down below there. And I had the pleasure of going to the Wood Island that was down in, it's off Kittery. And last year we had this group, the Heritage Association for Life-Saving Service, we had our annual meeting there. And we were actually on Wood Island, and those guys from North Carolina came, or Chickadee, they came up and did that live rescue in front of us. It was really cool. And then going full circle, the guys from Cape Cod took the helicopters out, and they did a sea rescue from the helicopters in front of us. That was pretty neat to see that. So the life-saving station started in 1887. They were manned September through May, and Captain Horace Trundy was the first keeper, and then Wayne's family became a keeper a year after, 2 years later. They, like every life-saving station, and they had got inspected a lot. Every day they had to follow the same drills that everybody did. So what day's today? Tuesday, right? So, boat drill. Did you guys see all the whitecaps out there today? An hour rowing out there. That would be fun. Yeah, that's tough. So these are all from our area, these postcards. So they're doing the flag signals, boat launch here. These are the row crew. And there's a little, I can't use my mouse, sorry. And there's a little watch house that they built so they could see the other side of the hill there. And here's the guys with the cart. I forgot the dog's name. It was pretty famous, I thought. So we have Jordans and Staples and Dyers and Angels, Pillsbury's. A lot of Cape Elizabeth. And that's what the wild gun that was in our house looked like. So here's some more Staples. We didn't have a Staples before. We have a Staples here too. So this is when they're closing up for the summer, because they end the station in the summer, and they were just getting oars oil and ready to go. So like every life-saving station, they wound up doing patrols. So they patrolled to McKinney Point. This is Wayne's grandma, right?
Mother.
Oh, mother, your mother. I'm sorry, your mother.
That's his grandfather.
That's your grandfather and mother. That's cool. Anyway, they would patrol to McKinney Point and then north to Trundy Point. And they would do these shifts every couple of hours and midnight to 4 a.m. And for what was typical at these stations is when they were meeting they were patrolling a beach where they bumped into other people, they would have this token that had their life station on it.